The BLJ is one of the most popular glitches in video games ever, probably because of how cool it looks and how easy it is to pull off. You probably already knew that you can use the BLJ on the staircase that seems to go on forever. Players can't level up until they collected enough coins, usually, but the BLJ just skips that. But do you know why Mario can do this? Or even this? And have you ever seen this ungodly strategy? Alright, let's reel it back 1 second. Before I can explain how any of that worked, I'll have to explain how the most basic BLJ works. BLJ stands for backwards long jump. We'll be using this demonstration Mario to visualize what I'm talking about. Why is he low poly? It's because Nintendo hates him for what he is about to do to their beautiful game. When our Mario long jumps, the game multiplies his velocity by 1.5, capped to 48. While you move forward, this lets you accelerate quickly, but you'll never exceed 48 velocity on the long jump. But there's an oversight. There is no negative limit for speed, and this means that if you long jump going backwards, you'll get more and more negative speed on an exponential curve. And exponential growth gets out of hand quick. On the N64, it only takes you 213 backwards long jumps until your speed is so far in the negative that the console can no longer do math with this number and you reach negative infinity. You may think this means you can just BLJ anywhere out of thin air, but unfortunately, Mario loses all his gathered negative velocity by the time he lands again, avoiding any potential issues, usually. If you can find a way to shorten this air time, you can long jump again before Mario loses all the velocity. This is at the core of every type of BLJ. The most straightforward way to achieve this is with a low ceiling to instantly stop Mario's upwards momentum. Pretty obvious. There aren't many such areas in the game, but one example for a layout permitting this kind of BLJ is this hole with the 1-up in front of Jolly Roger Bay. Another very straightforward way to BLJ is with a steep, climbable slope. Some slopes in Mario 64 have a property programmed in that makes it so that Mario will never slip on the surface. If you find any such surface, Mario will land from his jump 1 frame after jumping from here. Examples of this would be the rocks in Bob-omb Battlefield or the steep platforms in the 3rd Bowser level. One very common BLJ you will see a lot in speedruns is the L BLJ. This is actually also a ceiling BLJ. Mario 64's code is tied together with duct tape, so Mario will detect ceilings even if they are below him as the ceiling above him, but only if there is no floor below him and above this ceiling. Sounds confusing, but let me show you what I mean. While Mario is standing here and he's moving this way, the game detects that moving Mario would make him leave the tiled floor. And now the red carpet stairs are the next floor below him. This causes the brick ceiling here to be detected as the next ceiling above Mario, and he ends up colliding with it, cancelling his vertical and horizontal momentum. This also prevents Mario from moving, as the game tries to keep him out of ceilings for obvious reasons. And this lets you instantly cancel his jump, just like before, and results in this being a BLJ spot. Another very easy way to get a BLJ going is through elevators. The developers did not program inertia into Mario 64, which not only can be pretty counterintuitive in stages like Rainbow Ride, it also means Mario often cannot jump while standing on an elevator. This will screw you over usually, but if you want a BLJ, it's just what you need. Examples for spots like this can be found all over the game. Big Boo's Haunt and Hazy Maze Cave are the easiest ones. Fun fact, the Big Boo's Haunt elevator ride is so long that you can literally reach the end of numbers the game can do math with, which rounds your speed to negative infinity, and you will literally crash the console. Staircases are slightly more complicated to explain. Not all staircases in Mario 64 are programmed as staircases. Some of them are programmed as slopes. To do a staircase BLJ, you will need to first find a staircase that's actually programmed as a staircase. You can identify whether something is actually programmed as a staircase by jumping while walking up it. If it's programmed as a real staircase, you will sometimes see Mario's jump getting eaten by the game. This is because one frame after Mario jumps, Mario lands again. Why does he land again? If you jump just before you reach the next step, Mario's projected position would be under the staircase. The game then snaps Mario up and detects that he's landed. This is very typical for video games, and if we were moving down, this would make perfect sense. But here, it cancels his jump instead, allowing you to chain backwards long jumps and to build up speed. One much more difficult way to BLJ is the side BLJ, also known as SBLJ. The SBLJ takes advantage of differences between Mario's air movement and his grounded movement. In mid-air, Mario has the ability to move sideways, while on the ground, he will always move on the axis he is facing. This is very similar to this grinding thing Mario sometimes does when you walk near a ledge. If you've played Mario 64, I'm sure you've ran into this issue a couple of times. And while Mario's on the ground, he always snaps to floors that are close below him, which is intended to allow him to walk downstairs. How does it help Mario to achieve a BLJ? Well, imagine Mario is standing parallel to a staircase. And now, let's rotate his movement direction ever so slightly. If you're on the ground and have a negative speed, Mario would now slowly move down the stairs. But if you were in the air and you held the direction up the stairs, Mario would move towards the top of the stairs. That's all we need for a BLJ. Let's analyze the Diadog skip frame by frame. When Mario does a long jump here, he holds towards the top of the stairs, which makes him land on the next staircase just like a normal staircase BLJ would. Except this time, it's from a sideways movement. The very next frame, he's grounded and his ground movement will move him down one step and snap him to the floor. Now, Mario's in a position to do another long jump and the BLJ continues. This lets Mario BLJ anywhere with a staircase-like step. Examples of this would be the aquarium next to Jolly Roger Bay, and basically every staircase in the entire game. The grinding thing happens in the same manner, by the way. By walking near parallel to a ledge, walking off, and then holding towards the stage, you will consistently start to stutter on the ledge like this. Another thing you may see when speedrunners or tool-assisted runs do any of these is constant pausing. How come? Well, Mario 64 is a game that runs at 30 frames a second, and this is a limitation. How fast can you mash the A button? Let's say you were able to mash 20 times in a single second. The game only pulls your controller 30 times a second. That means that during 20 out of 30 frames, the A button was pressed. No matter how you space these 20 frames out in a 30 frame second, the game will see you hold the A button for 2 consecutive frames rather than you mashing the button super fast sometimes. To get around this, you can pause the game right after jumping. Consider this timeline where the top denotes in-game frames and the bottom denotes input frames. Then you can unpause with start, hit A, and pause again. This results in only 2 in-game frames passing while you hit the A button twice. While this means it takes longer in total to do the whole BLJ, it also means that Mario travels less distance per A button press. This lets you generate more speed even on shorter stairs, elevator rides, or what other condition limits the amount of space you have for your BLJ. Alright, so now we have our speed. Why can Mario do the things he can do with this speed? The most famous thing Mario can do with the BLJ is probably skip the 70-star stairs. The reason he can do this is that the staircases here are actually a portal that teleports Mario down whenever he gets close to the top. If, at any point, Mario is within a specified zone, the game decides to teleport him back down. When Mario BLJs, he goes so fast that within a single frame, he moves from in front of the teleport zone to being right behind the teleport zone. This lets Mario avoid the teleport entirely. Similarly, walls are just small force fields that push Mario outwards when he touches the force field. A BLJ lets Mario go so fast that he teleports to right behind the wall. Modern games and my custom Mario 64 mod avoid this issue, and all the other times Mario just falls for levels by using raycast physics. Basically, you would cast a ray from Mario's first previous position to his new position and snap Mario to any surfaces hit. But Mario 64 is so old that standards like that were not yet common. You also can't do a BLJ in the Shindu version of Mario 64. This is a version Nintendo released in Japan only, long after the initial release of Mario 64. This version simply snaps Mario's speed back to 0 when you long jump with negative velocity, which looks extremely awkward, but it avoids the issue, I suppose. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. I gathered all this knowledge while working on mods for Mario 64. What you're seeing right now in the background is the 14th out of 15 courses of my mod, Return to Yoshi's Island. It's an early version, but I've already gotten normal map reflections to work on real Nintendo 64 hardware. Shoutouts to all my Patreons for supporting this project. I'd love to showcase more of my project, but I know people avoid these videos to avoid spoilers, and that's not ideal for a YouTube creator like me. If you want to stay up to date on the progress, you should check out my second channel, Kaze Clips. I'm very active on there, and I respond to every criticism that's given about my game. I post twice a week. That's all. See you next video.